What's up, y'all? Welcome to Icing the Puck. Listen, we're not going to waste too much time here. There's so much to get into. Jordan, how you been? I just saw you like an hour ago. We had a good little Easter celebration. How you doing?
Yeah, special. I say special. Special Easter episode today. Not really, just our normal. But yeah, it was good. It was good. Nice dinner, good food, and hanging out with everybody. But yeah, lots going on, lots to talk about so far this week. But I mean, what about you? How was your week so far?
Yeah, good. Busy week, but good weekend. Caught up on some rest. Always fun. Feel like I just saw you the whole weekend, man. We just chilled the whole
Yeah,
time.
we did. We hung out
Pretty
a lot.
good.
Watched the
Well,
Stars as game on Saturday. And
unfortunately.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
that was great for me. I don't know what you're talking about, but
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah, it was good. We had a good Easter. I hope everybody, all the listeners who celebrate, I hope y'all had a good Easter. Yeah, that's the one peaceful thing that's happening. And other than that, the NHL is far from peaceful. It's a bloodbath. It's a war zone, but that's usually what tends to happen in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. And it's a bloodbath in Long Island right now for Patrick Waugh as he gets fired. We'll go ahead and start with that.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing that happened today, this morning, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or whatever, at least for us. Yeah, Patrick Waugh is out with 4 games remaining in their season, and Pete DeBoer is in. All I have to say, biggest takeaway from this, thank God Pete DeBoer is in the Eastern Conference now. Jared Bednar's kryptonite no
Yeah,
longer in the Western Conference. I would
very
have
true.
rather have not been in the NHL at all because never know if you might see them eventually. But glad he's over there. I don't have to think about him for until playoff times really.
Yeah, and if you
But
don't mind, I think I'm gonna jump and give my opinion on this
yeah,
first, real quick. Obviously, the Vegas thing with Tortorella and Bruce Cassidy happened last week. We covered that for y'all. That was a
huge
shock.
success by the way.
Yeah, Vegas is Vegas kind of rocking lately.
I think they've
Vegas kind of
won. I think
rocking.
they've won every game since that.
Maybe. Hey, man, we're wrong. We're willing to admit when we're wrong, but we'll see how this one plays out. I don't know. There's a lot going on in the media with this right now, obviously. A lot of people saying it's not Patrick Waugh's fault. It is Patrick Waugh's fault that they're in the position they're in. My personal opinion, obviously, this is a team sport, okay? Takes a whole bunch of pieces to build a team. But when you lose 4 straight, like you did as Patrick Waugh, and you're this close to the postseason, and you're about to fall out of that third place spot, I mean, potentially,
Yeah,
like,
well, they're. I think they're now not in a wild. As after like when they fired him, and then after today, they are no longer in a playoff spot.
yeah,
But
uh-huh,
yeah,
and
four of arguably their most important games of the season,
yeah,
and you lose them the same way. Just not they. It just looked like there was like no effort there. I mean, they
yeah.
just weren't even playing basically. I'm not shocked by. I mean, I was shocked when it happened, but also not surprised that it happened.
Yeah, and you and I have been pretty vocal about this in the past before we had the show. Patrick was not that good of a head coach. I mean, he showed that when he was the coach of the Avalanche. And since he's been coach of the Islanders, things have not been as successful until this most recent season. And could you kind of, spark the idea of success, maybe gives a lot of the credit to the surgence of Matthew Schaefer and Sorokin kind of coming back to form. And the roster is built pretty well. Lou Amorello's fired. You have a new GM, builds better roster. Patrick was kind of just a middleman piece a little bit, and
Yeah,
very aggressive head coach. Sometimes it's come to bite him back, and kind of that's what's happened here. Decisions were made in those 4 games that obviously didn't cause the Islanders to play their best hockey. And then here we go. We have Pete DeBoer stepping in. So,
yeah. I mean, I agree with like, and we've talked about it. It's like I don't think he's the most you know level-headed or the best choice for a head coach. I mean, I know that he had some good success as a goalie coach specifically on a team. I mean, stick with what you know. He just doesn't have the right attitude, I don't think. I mean, you go back and watch like just there's compilations online of just him overreacting and just like being just way too heated as a coach.
Screaming at Rantanen.
Yeah, I mean, breaking glass and all that stuff. Like, I mean, there's a certain extent to like being like pumped up and an animated coach and like, going to bat for your guys is one thing. But we talked about it earlier this season with the whole Rantanen thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get there's to a certain extent, like, again, like protecting your players and, that kind of stuff and talking, it is all talk, but saying like threatening a player for a hockey play, like whether it was dirty or not, is just, it just doesn't show great, not great quality, I don't think.
Yeah.
And, like I said, he amazing goalie and he could teach that position really, really well and can coach that position really well. But everything else as a head coach, I don't see the appeal. I mean, he had one bad season in Colorado and like a down season in Colorado and bailed. I mean, he left before his contract was up in
Yeah.
Colorado. Glad he did. I mean, thank God
Yeah.
he did, because now, Colorado has Bednar and stuff like that. But still, it's like, I'm not surprised by this move. Like, I was surprised, like I said, I was surprised when it happened because, like, wow, it's again another coaching change in the last like last 2 weeks of the
Yeah.
regular season. But I'm also not surprised that it was him as well. It's like, I mean, yeah, like I said, arguably like losing arguably 4 of the most important games of the season for this team and having no change between them, no drive, no change in the amount of drive in the team and like what they were trying to do in each game.
Yep.
Most of the time you'd see like the most they did was shift up a couple lines, but even then it wasn't even that much. It's like they were just letting it happen, which,
Yeah.
it goes to show. I mean, now they're not in a playoff spot where they were, a week ago.
Yeah,
And
where they have been most of the year, and that's like, I mean, your season in this Eastern Conference, it's sink or swim. It really is sink or swim at this point. And for the Islanders to fight all year to be in a playoff position after missing it a couple years, I mean, like, and then to just be knocked out, like, this one isn't. It's like you said, it's not as shocking as the Vegas thing that happened. Like,
yeah,
this is, I mean, title of this episode might as well just be Blood in the Water. Like, there's so much blood in the water in the Eastern Conference. And, like, maybe, following in Vegas's footsteps, bringing in a guy who has been to 5 straight conference finals to be your head coach is a way to get yourself back in the dance and to keep yourself permanently in there. So, and almost like,
he's got a tall task. He's got a very tall task.
He
I mean,
does.
they have to, I think they have to win the rest of their games basically to secure a spot. But
yeah,
I mean, they're only 1 point off from Ottawa, who was the one that dropped him, who passed him and dropped him out. But
well,
I
Philly
mean,
winning
Ottawa's,
today too. Philly winning today too has jumped them into 3rd place position. So
yep, yeah. But I mean, Ottawa's kind of been on a little bit of a hot streak as well. They're won the majority of their last 10 games. Their game today against Carolina, I
incredible.
mean, they looked really good. So
they outskated Carolina in every facet. They outplayed them in every single area of the game today.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Same with Philly, with Boston. What a game. 2 crucial games today in the Eastern Conference. That's just adding to the shakeup here. Like, this is so crazy.
I need the Islanders back in a playoff spot so our prediction of them bouncing Buffalo in round 1 comes true.
I don't know, man.
Everybody hated that take online, but
the Buffalo fans came after us this past week, man. They let us hear it on TikTok. That's for sure.
We didn't post a clip of us talking about Josh Allen either, though. So I mean, that would not have gone over well either.
No. Listen, we're not Buffalo haters. We just like to troll a little bit. Y'all are. Let's be honest. Y'all are new to this, Buffalo Sabres fans. This is it's been a long time for you. This is it's a different world in the playoffs. All right, but no, all love for Buffalo. Let's talk about Buffalo. They've dropped a little bit, but not to their, not really to their detriment here. They've just dropped because of the, Montreal and Tampa Bay really stepping up to the plate here and securing better positions.
Yeah. One of the most surprising, and that's kind of going into what we want to talk about next. Montreal secured a playoff berth. They are 2nd in the Atlantic right now. They've been fighting. I mean, they were fighting there for first. I mean, they're still in the fight for first. They're only 2 points back. It's going to be a race to the finish for these 3 teams to see who's going to finish.
And Montreal
first
has
division.
Crazy. I mean, I feel like it's like the past month we've just talked about how crazy this Eastern Conference as a whole is. Montreal, who before the Olympics, by the way, was out of a playoff position. Okay, and very tight race. And here they are, like you said, fighting for first. I mean, this team has a heart, has a
Yeah.
beating heart, and it's beating fast, man. I love this young group, man. I said in our first episode this season, I said they are going to be the most exciting team. Them and San Jose would be the most exciting teams to watch this year. And look at them, like you said, almost in first place. That is
Yeah.
just
I
wild.
mean, we talked about them and we're saying in one of our episodes that they're potentially a cup winning team in the next couple of years. They might be ahead of schedule. Like this is it's a, I could see them making a run as well. I mean, a lot of these Eastern teams, I think the Eastern is going to be the most I really don't know what team is going to come out on top in the East because
Yeah,
they're all, it's going to be, like we said, like it is going to be a bloodbath in the playoffs with all of these teams. And it's crazy that, again, that a lot of these teams are going to get bounced in the first round. But,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm willing to say that these top three Atlantic teams, I can see one of them making the cup. I really can. The
yeah.
talent pool in those three teams is insane. They all want it. They all want it, in my
If
opinion.
it stays as it is right now, Montreal Buffalo first round would go crazy. That's going to be such a good matchup.
Yep.
Like
Oh
that
yeah.
is going to be a crazy series. That's a 7-game series right there.
100%. No matter which of those teams are in second or third, I mean, home advantage for either of those teams, I feel like it almost doesn't matter in this one. Like that is going to be a killer series. That might be my most anticipated one other than Dallas, Minnesota as of right
Yeah.
now. And I
Yeah,
love it.
that's
I
definitely the
love it.
matchup to watch in the East, as well as, I mean, yeah, I mean, I still think Tampa's going to win that division. So I don't think that top three is going to change. I think that maybe 2 and 3 will flip potentially, but
Yeah.
even it doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't think it matters which of those teams wins second or third. Like I said, I think Tampa is going to come out ahead. I think they're still just a little bit more put together than those other two teams. But I mean, if Montreal stays on this heater, I think they've won like 7 games in a row or something. I guess probably 8 games now. Did they win yesterday? Yeah, they won yesterday. 8 games, 8 games in a row. They've
Yeah.
won.
And going into that, like props to Montreal, who serious goaltending issue this whole season, basically. And this is, we talk about the coaches getting fired. I feel like we're not talking enough about good coaching in this league. You got to give a hats off to Marty St. Louis here. I mean, he probably got in the room with those guys, Fowler, Dobish, Montabone. He said, listen, like this team is capable of winning the cup, and I want y'all to be the goaltenders we do it with. So get your act together and let's get this thing straight. And you see it 8 straight games. I mean, incredible. And then moving over to Tampa, like I say it all the time, but everybody thought Tampa was falling off. They thought they were going to fall out of a playoff spot. Hello, Nikita Kucherov. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, but not just him. A lot of these guys, they've been to it before. They've done it twice. They've won the cup twice, and now they have a couple
Yep.
new characters there. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, they still
God,
have
God.
a lot of their cup winning roster on their team
And then
still,
just
which is
more good players with Hagel, Gensel,
yep.
Radish, Darren Radish, man. 21 goals this year.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. Franchise record, by the way. Franchise record. So, man, I love the Atlantic Division, dude. What such fun hockey this year. And before we move on to the West, let's talk about maybe the bottom end of the Atlantic and some things that we didn't expect happening this year that are just kind of right in front of us, like with teams being eliminated.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah, yesterday during their game, the Florida Panthers, they didn't even get to finish their game against the Penguins, got eliminated from the playoffs mid-game.
Not a game, a slaughter from the
Yeah, I was
Penguins.
gonna say that probably contributed to the second half of that game when the Penguins just went off, and then today as well. I mean,
And Matthew
what was that?
Kachuk getting sucker punched in the game
Yeah.
today.
What is that? 15 goals against in the past 2 days has to be rough. Like, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, guarantees though, we will have a new Stanley Cup, team
Matchup.
this
Yeah,
year.
we will have
Yep.
a new Stanley Cup matchup,
Yep.
at least in the Eastern side of things. And this podcast is all about hot takes. And we'll get to that in a sec. I saw you roll your eyes. Wait, we're getting to that later because a lot of people are going to probably get really mad if they're not in Canada right now. Listen, sorry, overreactions, hot takes. What this podcast is known for. Is this the downfall of the Pax Florida, the Pax Romana, Pax Florida, the Florida Panthers? Isn't over? That was retarded. Isn't over?
I mean, here's what I look at. How do you have a team that is pretty much the same as last year? They managed to retain all the guys that everybody thought they were not going to be able to
Minus
retain.
Barkov playing and Kachuk for
Yeah.
half the year, but
Yeah.
still.
But to go from winning the Stanley Cup back-to-back years to out of the playoffs,
last place in your division,
last place in the division, like fourth last in the league with basically the same roster is crazy.
Wild.
And I really don't know what their biggest issue is. I mean, you can maybe make the case that it's been goaltending this year, and with Barkov and with Kachuk out for part of the season, I think Barkov is a big part of it. And I mean, let's be honest, Bobrovsky, regular season, he was always a little hit or miss sometimes. It was the playoffs that he really shined.
This year, it's bad.
This year has just been kind of exposed even more.
I think he has a 8.6 or 8.7 save percentage, and it's just like,
yeah,
he's going to be, I think he's going to be 38 or 39 years old.
Yeah, and I think that part of it comes from, like, this year, I feel like I don't have the stats to back this up or anything. I just from like watching games and just kind of overall feeling, I feel like the shot amounts, like the shots on goal this year has been way higher than years previous.
Oh yeah.
And
I
that
agree.
probably contributes. I mean, the goal differentials and like the goals against this season have been way higher than even like last year. I don't know what the caused that change. Just could be just one of those years, but I mean, the volume is kind of exposing some of these goalies that everybody thought were really solid, and because they were able to lock it down and play through it in the playoffs, because the shot volume is always way higher in the playoffs, but getting exposed in the regular season, and unfortunately Bobrovsky and Florida have been a victim of it. And we've talked about it kind of on the side multiple times, like, do we think that this is the end for him? In Florida, at least.
Yeah,
I definitely think he'll end up in another team if he doesn't stay in Florida, but
if
he'll
I
be a
was
backup for some team. But
if I was Florida, I would not bring back Sergei Bobrovsky.
he's gonna switch sides. Sergei Bobrovsky,
Edmonton Oilers.
Edmonton Oilers.
Like
It's
teams,
gonna be him and DeSmith.
Yeah, watch. But teams need to know when to cut things loose. And I think Florida, as much as they love getting the band back together, if they don't get Bobrovsky on a vet minimum or like maybe $2 million or something, like it's time to cut him loose. Personally, I mean, this is all rumor, but there was a lot of trade talks with San Jose about maybe getting Bobrovsky earlier in the season, but Florida was trying to make a last minute push. I could see Bob being a Shark, backup for the Sharks. It wouldn't hurt the team in any way. I mean, just give it a shot, but we could do all the speculation we want. But like, listen, Florida has not been good defensively all year like they were the past 2 years. And a big part of that is you have your Selke winning captain out, I mean, that plays a huge part. So not only are you missing leadership, but you're missing one of your best defensive players that happens to be a forward as well. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that factor into Florida this year. I also think, like, if we're just talking sports and superstition, like, everything comes full circle in sports. If you win 2 championships, you're almost owed the blood sacrifice. Like, it's...
Yeah, the payment comes due.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they made the pact after that loss to Vegas, and they won back-to-back cups. Now it's time to repay that debt.
Yeah, and then if you move away from superstition, you could also just use the term championship hangover. I mean, when you play 2 Stanley Cups in a row, that's a lot of hockey over 2 seasons. I mean, that's essentially like you're playing 3.5 seasons over the course of 2, if you think about it. That's how much hockey you're actually playing.
Yeah, I mean, all these teams that didn't make the playoffs or got, out of the playoffs early have basically an extra month and a half in the offseason to practice and do whatever, versus this team, I mean, they
Well,
won
just
the
to
cup.
relax and recover.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were going. They went and played all the way through the cup 2 years in a row, won the cup, had all the stuff going along with winning the cup, and then had to come back to practicing and all that stuff, and probably had like a month
Not just that,
max.
but three Stanley Cups in a row, winning two. That's a
Yeah,
lot of hockey. I mean, that is a
yeah,
lot of games to be played. That's a lot of, of the human body exerting energy.
yeah,
So, I mean, it was
yep.
bound to happen, especially for a team that's filled with veterans, too. So, I mean, is this the end for Florida? My opinion on that, asking the question, I don't think it's necessarily the end. I could see them making playoffs next year, but I think they definitely have to retool this roster, and it has to start on the defensive and goaltending side of things. The forward group is perfectly fine, but
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think they're going to have to deal some forwards to fix the back end.
for sure.
I definitely think that we're going to see, I don't know which of them it's going to be, but I think we're going to see a trade like in division with like Buffalo.
Wow.
Maybe snag one of their goaltenders.
Yeah.
I can see something like that. And then in all honesty, I think there's some deals to be made also in division with the Leafs. I think there needs to be some shakeup there. I'm not saying anything like a blockbuster, like like Austin Matthews or something like that. But, I definitely think that, there could be some changes. I mean, I could maybe see like, some trades for some defensive guys. Love to see, like Morgan Riley, like get traded
Oh,
to,
wow.
out of the Leafs, out of Canada, like there. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's a move like to Florida or what, but I don't know. They're gonna have to sacrifice some of their forward players to shore up their back end. I think they need another like number one D man, and they need at least another starter, or maybe even a I don't think there's anybody on the market right now that they can get as like a 1A, 1B kind of goaltender, but
Yeah.
maybe a B kind of,
Well, I can
two
tell you
backup
what,
guys.
they're definitely regretting trading Spencer Knight. That's for sure. Because it's no hate towards Daniil Tarasov. I'm sure he'll get the reins next year and try to be the starter. Will it work out? That's for time to tell. But Spencer Knight could have easily been the guy, as he's showing right now, and he's found a home in Chicago. But, Florida won't have to be picked apart as much, but we can move on to Toronto. That's a team that I feel like is easy pickings, for scavengers. Like
Yeah.
Toronto might be a different team next year roster wise. I mean, they fire their GM, Brad Treliving. That's another big thing that happened this week. I think Craig Berube is soon to follow. Toronto, a lot of changes coming to a team that needs a complete culture overhaul, something we've talked about all year.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see a roster shakeup there, and I don't know like specifically who they're going to trade with who, and where they're going to end up, but there's definitely going to be a big change for that team, and unless if there's not, I mean, that's just poor management at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think especially, yeah, if they're going to bring in a new GM, um, it's you've got to do something. I mean, this team has been on the downward, spiral, or kind of, the downward trend for the past 3 years now. Even though they made playoffs the previous 2 years,
Yeah.
it's just been worse and worse every time. And just to be fair, though, they actually, what was it last year? They did win their first 4-game series in like 30 years.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's a crazy statistic right there.
But to have that and to have playoff appearances the past 5 or so years, and then to be second last in the division, potentially ending the year in last place, like for both of these teams, it's like, that something's got to give. For Florida, it's for good reasons. You got what you wanted out of it. You got the 2 championships. But for Toronto, it's like, when is the championship going to come, and what is it going to take to achieve that? And obviously this group that they have isn't what it takes to achieve that. So
Yeah. Wasting the prime of some of their players.
yeah,
For sure.
Nylander, Matthews, I mean, both of these guys are just wasting away in Toronto. You know what? And dare I say, I mean, is Matthews moved?
We'll see. I think it
I
depends
don't know.
on, his level of play when he comes back from injury. I
Yeah.
think that's where that will be the tell. But yeah, I think they signed their own death warrant basically when they when they made that captain change and took it from, I
Tavares.
think, yeah, from Tavares gave it to Matthews. I think that was the beginning of the decline for them,
Yep.
and much deserved, because that's we've talked about it multiple times, and everybody kind of knows my feelings on it. I think that's an absolute disrespectful move, and I'm surprised that Tavares is still on that team. I would have requested a trade that day.
Yeah, that's it's wild. A lot of stuff going on in the East, and I bet you even more change is coming in the near future. I can see it right now. Hey, playoffs are right around the corner. I'm excited to see where this Eastern Conference ends up. One little quick note to end off here. Right now, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia will be playing each other. And if we're keeping on the theme of bloodbaths,
That would also be a really good matchup.
oh, dude.
Like that rivalry, first round,
What
opening face off line brawl.
What are we
would
living in
be
the
sick.
90s again right now? Like, it feels like it, man. It feels
It
like
really
it.
is. It really is the new golden era of hockey. Like
It is. The NHL did
it's-
not pay us to say that. I wish they did.
Yeah.
NHL, if you're hearing this, please send us the check. We'll say it every episode if you need us to. But let's move to the West, man. Back home where we belong, dude. I feel like all we do is talk Eastern Conference hockey. I'm ready to get into this, man. Let's start. Let's
Yeah.
start right here close to home. Something I don't want to relive, but we're gonna have to. Your Colorado Avalanche beating my Dallas Stars 2-0 on Saturday. Another year of our team splitting the 4-game series here.
Yeah. Honestly, just glad it didn't end in a shootout.
Yeah, it was a regulation game for once. Don't have to
Oh my gosh.
stay for
I think
5 hours.
I think the last like 5 regular season games that they played against each other have been
Overtime or
shootout.
shootout.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, which is, dude,
guys, we have
crazy.
work in the morning sometimes. We'll just be watching these games together. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
here we
Yeah.
go again. I
Yeah,
had to kick-
luckily having 2 teams in the same division, like the game started at a reasonable time instead of like as long as they're not like a West Coast team, like
Yeah.
we were just talking about how like the last game before this, it was like it was about to go to overtime. It was like right between the second and third period. We're like, this is definitely gonna go to overtime. It's like, I'm just gonna go home.
I had to kick Jordan out of my house, guys. I start work at 6 a.m. I was like, dude, I'm be honest with you, I'm not finishing this one. Like, it's not happening tonight. But yeah, your Avs with a secure lead here in the league, the West, the Central,
Yep.
everywhere.
Yeah, they have
Hasn't
a game
changed.
tonight. If they win against the Blues in any fashion tonight, they will secure the division, first place in the division. And then I think one game after, if they win the next game after that, they'll secure the number 1 position, or the number 1 overall position in the league. Something like that. It's either 1 or 2 more games or 3 more games, I think. And they'll secure the top spot in the league, which again is awesome. And I think it really just depends on what their matchup is first round. I definitely think that any of the teams they play right now are beatable by this team. But you know, the main takeaway about this Central Division, and we've talked about it multiple times, I don't even want to rehash it all. I think it is an absolute travesty that Dallas and Minnesota will play each other first round and will knock each other out. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it just shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, for 2 teams that are right in the mix of it, 2 of the best teams in the entire league. And yeah, we get a great series out of it, but could be a great series in the next round. It really could, but here we go. They're going to do the dance here to start things off. We've been anticipating this matchup for, I mean, this whole second half of the season at this point. Yeah, I mean, it's, once again, I don't know how many times you're going to say the term bloodbath this episode, but Dallas and Minnesota have been known to have some ferocious series. I mean, we'll take it back to 3 years ago. Obviously, the Dumba hit on Pavelski, that's what everybody remembers if you're a Wild or Stars fan. I mean, and I think more of the same this year. I think both teams have gone all in on these rosters. They want the cup. They're going to do whatever it takes to get it. I mean, Minnesota, with all the moves that they've made, they're going to play hard. This is for sure a 7-game series, no matter what way you paint it. And unfortunately, that's going to beat one of whoever wins up. And we're going to play Colorado, and it's going to be I think that second round, well, we're assuming Colorado wins in the first round, but, you know, assuming Colorado wins in the first round, which I think 99.9% of hockey fans are anticipating. You know, Dallas or Minnesota, whoever ends up playing Colorado, that is going to be the toughest series in the entire NHL playoff. Even the Cup, I think it will be the hardest series ever played this
Yeah.
year. So,
Yeah. I mean that second round in the Central is going to be is the hardest path to the Cup
yeah, a
of
hundred
any
percent,
division.
100%.
Yeah.
It's you have to earn every single win, and it is going to
Yeah.
be. And we've talked about this before. I feel like we haven't talked about it on the podcast as much. But you know, is it going to mess up the path for one of these teams because of how many people potentially might get injured? You know, because of how hard the
Because of how
path is.
physical these
Yeah.
series, yeah, and how rough these series are. I mean, there is that risk. And then, whoever wins in the Central or whatever is gonna have to play. Of course, it's gonna be Edmonton playing in the Western Conference final again for some reason. They have a cakewalk to the first, to the
Okay.
a cakewalk to
I think it's time.
the Western Conference
I
final.
referenced it right at the beginning of the episode. I have a bit of a conspiracy, and I want you to clip this. This is the conspiracy. The Pacific Division has the easiest path through the Stanley Cup playoff because all of these teams are so bad. And right now, Edmonton is in first place. So who would Edmonton play? Edmonton would play either Nashville, or no, Edmonton would play Utah right now. Edmonton would play Utah, which I didn't even realize that they moved into first place. I might change my conspiracy theory up here a little bit because I think Utah would beat Edmonton.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, yes and no in a way. Like, I'm not even talking about it from like this. This is just a glaring example, and I said I wasn't want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it now.
No, let's go. Let's
bring
go.
it up about the format. The fact that the Oilers, who are number one, the best team in their division, are about to play a wild card team that is only 1 point behind them.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Edmonton would not be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference at all. And they're number one.
Utah has a better record.
Yeah.
They just have one less point. They have a better winning record than the Oilers do. And I mean, it's such a waste of good hockey.
It is. It really is. It's terrible. Listen, I'm going to break my theory down really quick to explain what both of us are trying to say. This is what I'm saying. Edmonton has almost the easiest path through the playoffs. So if they beat Utah, okay, then they will play the next Pacific team, which will be Anaheim or Vegas, who they have a very good chance of beating. Probably won't be that competitive
because those teams are also on the same level as all the other wild card teams in that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, let's be honest, it will not be that competitive of a series. Then you have the Central, which is in World War III, okay, and they're all trying to annihilate each other. That team is going to be beat up, giving Edmonton the perfect opportunity to snake them in the conference final and make it to the Cup and leapfrog everybody. And
here's where I look at it too, and like this goes to show, like this kind of talks about how like divisional games and stuff make a big difference. Both the wildcard teams right now are from the Central Division. The only reason those teams are not in a higher point total is because they're in the Central and they just got bullied by the top three teams in the league.
Pretty much. They just get stopped.
Literally, the top three teams in the league are in the Central Division. And I think the only one that lost a game to any of those was Colorado. Lost one game to Nashville.
Yeah.
Those other three teams beat both wildcard teams. I think they won every single game against them. Like,
I think Dallas might have lost one game to Utah or something, but like, I get what you're saying.
I mean, even still, it's like there's a reason they talk about like divisional games are like 4-point games, 4-point games because of like these wildcard teams that are coming from the Central Division are, in my opinion, better teams than the number 1 through number 3 teams in the Pacific Division. And it's just exposing this, just how broken this playoff seeding is. Because these teams, if they weren't in the Central Division, would probably be top 3 and like would be top 1 or 2 in their own division. Yeah.
And this is, it's
if they got to bully the teams in the Pacific, they would absolutely be like 100-point teams.
It's what you just said. Like, the Pacific Division alone as a whole has exposed how the playoff format most likely should be changed. Because, I mean, it's every week. And And we say that we're getting tired of having to talk about Edmonton all the time. I'm honestly so over talking about the Pacific at this point. I don't know what they expect from us. Like, the league has literally just allowed them to be the garbage disposal of all of us. Like, they're just not good. Like, and watch, they have the easiest path to the cup. And if one of them makes it to the cup, it'll be a waste for you and I. Like, both of our teams who fought tooth and nail for everything this year, you know, like.
Yeah, because they absolutely destroy each other in the first 2 rounds and then have to play beat up and play a team that had like a nice little vacation trip basically to the conference final. Like this sounds like complaining about like, and like we're like making excuses for our teams, but like arguably whatever team comes from the Pacific to play in the conference final has absolutely the easiest path to that
Yeah.
thing. And if they happen to win that one because they don't have any players injured and whatever, and like, you know, they've had like, you know, 5-game series, and all these teams in the Central have played multiple 7-game series at this point, and they end up going to the cup. Like, again, that goes to my point of saying like the best team doesn't always win the cup. It's
Yeah.
the team that, you know,
Had the best path.
the easiest, had the most winnable path to the playoffs or through the playoffs. And, you know, and it all depends on matchups. It's like, I don't know. I've seen enough of the Pacific. Just relegate them back to the AHL.
Yeah, especially the LA Kings. We didn't even get to that. So the Kings have now set the record, the NHL record, by the way, for most overtime losses in a season. It also matches the amount of regulation wins that they've had.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think they won one more
19.
now. I think they've won 20 now. And
but still, at the time,
it's crazy. It's just like,
and guess what? They might potentially be in a wild card spot.
Yeah, they're tied in points with Nashville, but Nashville has a tiebreaker because it doesn't matter unless they pass them in points.
Yeah,
Nashville has the tiebreaker because they have 4 more regulation wins. Or 5 more regulation wins than the Kings. But the fact that a team like Nashville can get knocked out of the playoffs by the Kings.
Yeah, travesty.
You know, like such a waste. It's such a waste of these teams. And I would be so mad if I was like in charge, like the GM of some of these teams.
Yeah.
Like I would be sitting there like, this needs to change.
Yeah.
Imagine like you're like having a good season, you're in a wild card spot again from where you haven't been in a while, especially like Utah. You know, Utah, it's their first season or second season as like a team, you know?
First as the Mammoth.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's their first like since the move under the new owner, right? Imagine if like they got knocked out by like a technicality in points and wild card slotting, and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I would be pissed. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they spent so much money renovating their stadium and, you know, doing all this stuff for the team. And luckily they're not in that position right now. Like they have a pretty solid lead on that wildcard 1 spot.
Yeah.
But imagine they lose first round to the Oilers, who are arguably a worse team than they are. Now that would go to show like they get exposed as not that great of a team.
Yeah, it's the playoffs. But yeah.
Yeah. But still,
and that's where the nuance is. That's where the nuance is. It's like, this is the playoffs. It's a different beast to tame, you know, like are more teams ready for the playoffs than others? Like, and that's where you could argue with what both of us are saying right now. And we would entertain that argument. Like me and Jordan personally have entertained
there are Central Division teams that are better teams on paper and in their play than some of these Pacific teams that are, you know, have a better chance of winning and getting a wild card spot than any of the Central Division teams, just because of their playing in the Pacific. And it's ridiculous, man. It's crazy.
Yep. That's just how it's shaken up.
If Edmonton goes to the Cup final, like the Stanley Cup final again, I might actually just
podcast might be over, y'all.
Yeah, it might be it. It might be toast.
Edmonton versus Carolina.
That would be the most boring Stanley Cup ever. That'd probably be the only time I would root for the Oilers.
Dude, is this the one year that like everything is so exciting and we're just gonna get like a 5 game or like sweep Stanley Cup? Like,
I don't care if Edmonton makes it to the Stanley or the conference final again, because if they do, I want Colorado to just, sweep them again like they did in 2022.
unless Colorado gets knocked out by Nashville, first round, how would you feel if that happened this whole season?
Fire the team. Just fire everybody.
Man, dude, but hey, you know what, guys? Like, we say all this stuff, but all of it is like very possible because of the nature of this game that we love. Like, this year, I mean, we were talking about it last night with some friends, like we got to do a friends episode. We say this all the time, but like this year specifically, this season is so unpredictable. Like, it is so, I feel like, and this is not throwing shade or nothing, maybe a little bit, but like Colorado maybe President's Trophy winners, but like, is something just gonna go haywire? Is something crazy gonna happen? Like, I don't know,
All right,
man.
all right. Trying to rage bait here. Trying to rage bait me over here. Whatever, bro. When Colorado's easily going to beat Minnesota, and then they're going to go to the conference final. They're going to sweep the Oilers.
All right, the range bait is going too far on both sides here. But no, for real, I mean, the Eastern Conference, is unpredictable, and I feel like everybody is thinking the West is just going to go how it's expected to go. I don't know, man. Like, I think there's going to be like are the Ducks going to make the cup or something wild like that?
I think it's funny, like the comparison you just said. It's like, yeah, like the Central Division over here is like World War III, fighting
It's
for
true.
like the first
Yeah.
place in the division, just like absolutely destroying each other in these games. And then,
Dude,
then you go to the Pacific, and it's just like super peaceful and just.
yep.
It's
We're
okay,
in the
guys.
playoffs.
It's okay, guys. We might have lost this game, but we got 1 point. We lost in overtime. It's okay. We'll get there eventually. It's all good, guys. The Pacific Division is participation trophy division.
You have
today.
the Pacific with like some of the worst goaltending in the entire league, just like high scoring games back to back, late night games. And then you have like the Central with like Jamie Benn taunting Nathan McKinnon. Like, it's literally no comparison. Like, it is just so, and then down 3 against Detroit today, like saying, yeah, watch this. Like, we play in the Central Division.
Well, the
Like,
thing is, like, the fact that Detroit was winning the game, and then Minnesota was like, "Nah, this isn't happening." It just turned on the Jets in the third period, and then
see,
won.
as a Stars fan, that's what I'm scared of with Minnesota, dude. Because I
Yeah.
feel like,
Although it is Detroit, and like Detroit is the new Buffalo.
they're about to enter the longest playoff drought in the NHL. Currently, we did not get to that, but Detroit has been struggling mightily. They are now, wow, they've dropped all the way to the third worst team in the division. So, after hanging in a playoff spot for 104 days, by the way, not a good look.
Nope.
The Iser
Yeah.
plan is officially over after this year. It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Yeah. All right. I've seen enough. Send Patrick Kane back to the Blackhawks.
Nope. Patrick Kane will be a Buffalo Sabre. He's going back home next year. I'm calling it, dude. At age 38, 1 year contract with Buffalo. He's gonna do it. He didn't want to go there a couple years ago. I don't blame you, Patrick Kane. I don't blame you. But it's time now. Come back home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, this is what an interesting year. Like, really, truly, what an interesting year of hockey.
It's going to come down to the wire for kind of where these teams finish in wild card spots and things like that. But man, the first round of these playoffs is going to be intense, and I'm here for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I don't care who's playing what at that point. Like, once it's set and done, like, and it's going, I'm over it. Like, it is what it is at that point, and I'm just excited to watch playoff hockey again. But it's going to be an intense first round.
Yeah. We still have a couple more weeks here. About 2 weeks left.
The 18th is the first day
of playoffs.
So we've got 2 weeks, basically. Yep.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be a fan of the NHL, dude. This is crazy. Truly the golden era of hockey. Please send the paycheck. Send the paycheck.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we send it off here, Jordan.
Yeah.
It's intense. Title of the episode is Bloodbath. Just Bloodbath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember in
Yeah.
high school there was a metal band I used to listen to called Bloodbath. I don't know if they're still around, but maybe you put them on over the episode when you post it. I don't know.
So I'll look at it. I'll see. I'll see if I can find it. That's funny.
But yeah,
Gosh.
super crazy, and I don't want the regular season to end. It's that weird time of year where we're like, it's coming to a close. Don't want the regular season to end. It's so great. But playoff hockey in itself is just incredible, and like,
Yeah, it's like the meme, like you have to like press one of the buttons and you don't know which one to press. It's like playoff hockey starts, or like keep going, keep regular season hockey going.
Yeah, so we can have it forever.
Yeah, I don't know which one. I think they should just extend it. There's no off season. They win the Stanley Cup
Straight into week
very
one.
next week. Yeah,
Free agency for 2 days. The draft immediately after. Straight into week one. No training camp.
Oh, the draft is next week, isn't it?
I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm blanking.
Next week.
We'll have to do some NHL draft coverage. Oh my gosh, I almost fell out of my chair. What a way to end this episode.
Oh no, I lied. I'm sorry. It's in June.
No, I was about to say the NFL draft is coming up.
That might be what I was thinking of then.
Yeah.
That might be what I was thinking of. Okay. Either way, yeah, the draft is that's the conspiracy theory. That's why they decentralized the draft. So you don't have to travel for it. It's just like, all right, guys, we're going to start, instead of starting in the evening, we're going to start at 8 a.m., do the entire draft in one day.
Yep. Crazy.
Man. Yeah, it's like, all right, welcome to the NHL. Put on this jersey. You're playing tomorrow.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. Crazy, man. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, listen, y'all. Great coming. Talking to y'all again. 2 more weeks, and then we're in the thick of it. 2 more weeks.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see. I mean, how many more coaches get fired in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah. Are all the playoff teams going to fire their coach now?
Yeah, it's like, it's just like that. Now all these coaches are like, if I drop out of this playoff spot, I'm fired.
Yeah, in the East, they're like, oh
no. Every single game, your job is on the line. It's like if you lose one game.
That's what it seems like now. That's what it seems like. I don't know, man.
All these teams that have been like swapping places for these wild card teams, it's like they drop out by 1 point, they automatically get the call. It's like, you're fired.
Yep, it's over, dude. But listen, y'all, thank you for tuning in. Check out all the socials. We appreciate the engagement. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Go check it out. Share this with everybody you know. Thank you for all the support, and we will see y'all in the next one.
Yeah, good talking, and looking forward to another 2 weeks of hockey. And yeah, everybody go watch some more hockey. That's the best thing you can do. But we'll see y'all in the next one.